strong words have been used in the debate about the migrants coming to Europe and massing at Calais. But there's also been a call for facts, and several newspapers and columnists have tried to fill this gap. And we've decided to look at the numbers ourselves. So Wesley Stevenson is here. Hello, Wes.
Hello, Tim. Yeah, there are two different stories here. The first are those migrants coming into Europe, many across the Mediterranean Sea, some over land. And then there are those coming to Calais who want to come to Britain. So let's start with those getting into Europe.
The Prime Minister talked of a swarm of migrants coming into Europe, which is a turn of phrase that's caused some excitement, but let's just assume he means a lot of migrants. Wes, are there a lot of migrants coming to Europe?
Well, compared to previous years, yes. The European Border Agency Frontex says that in July alone, more migrants came across the Mediterranean Sea into Greece than the whole of 2014. Asylum applications in Europe have almost doubled in the first 3 months of this year compared to last. And we haven't seen this kind of level since 1992.
So why are people coming? Are these economic migrants or are they genuine asylum seekers?
There has been a suggestion that those coming across the Mediterranean are economic migrants from Africa. However, the figures show this isn't the whole picture. Most of those coming across the Med are actually from Syria, Eritrea and Iraq, countries whose citizens are quite likely to be offered asylum.
Desperation drove them. Poverty, unemployment, war, disease. The terror and grinding hopelessness that pervades much of Africa and the Middle East. Barefoot survivors from the sinking boats, drawn together by the despair that propelled them across the Mediterranean.
Some are from Burundi, some are from Somalia, some are from Syria, some are from Pakistan, some are from Dakar, Burkina Faso, Nigeria, Mali.
The UN Refugee Agency says that migrants who cross the Mediterranean come from more than 40 countries. Last year, the greatest number, 31%, were from Syria, 18% from Eritrea, 25% from other countries in sub-Saharan Africa, 5% fled Afghanistan and 3% were Palestinian. According to the International Organization for Migration, the largest numbers so far this year are from Gambia, Senegal and Somalia. A bomb in the Somali capital last month. The jihadis of Al-Shabaab target officials, but anyone can get killed. Poverty and violence, what kind of a life is that? No wonder so many leave. To the north, Eritrea is a militarized gulag. Every able-bodied person is conscripted indefinitely, including women. They're paid as little as £10 a month. It's an army of virtual slaves. President Isaias Afwerki, seen here at a military funeral, brooks no dissent. And hundreds of thousands risk his shoot-to-kill policy for those caught crossing the border.
All Eritreans these days, between the age of 18 and 54 are in national service. They are not remunerated. They work for free for the government and the party, the ruling party of the country. Also, students at the age of between 16 and 18 are transferred to Sawa, the military camp. So practically the whole country is in arms.
And then there's Syria. War has forced 10 million Syrians to flee. Many live in desperate conditions. Only 150,000 have been legally resettled in Europe. Britain has accepted just 143. War, famine, pestilence, and death. In the Bible, they called them the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. Those who drown in the Mediterranean have fled them all, and most who live in the comfort of Europe would rather not know.
There will be, no doubt, economic migrants coming via this route too, but they're not the majority. Migrants are also crossing over into the EU by land. A number of those seem to be economic migrants from the former Yugoslavia who are probably looking for work.
OK, so let's now look at the migrants who are coming to Calais. So if we put them in the context of those coming to Europe as a whole, do we have a big number?
Well, the French authorities say that there are about 4,000 or 5,000 people in the camps around Calais. So that's a big camp, but it's not a large proportion of the people coming into the EU. The EU border agency Frontex detected 150,000 people crossing into Europe illegally in the first 6 months of this year.
Of these people coming into Europe, we're often told they want to come to the UK, do they?
We can't say where they're keen to come to, but what we can say is where they're actually going to. Newspapers like The Independent and The Guardian and several refugee charities point out Britain takes fewer asylum seekers than places like Germany, Sweden, France or Italy. And in the first 3 months of this year, Germany received 10 times more applicants than the UK. The number of asylum applications in the UK is rising and has been since 2010, but it's still less than half the number we got during the last Calais crisis in the early 2000s.
Well, I'm wondering whether asylum figures are actually a good measure of clandestine migration, because presumably if you manage to get into the UK clandestinely, you don't have to actually apply for asylum. You could just keep your head down.
Yeah, they give you a good idea of the trend, but you're right, not everyone who manages to sneak into the back of a lorry at Calais and makes it into the UK will claim asylum. Some won't. And half of all asylum applications are only made once someone's been detected by the authorities, which means there can be a lag between someone entering the country and showing up in the asylum data.
Now, loyal listener Harriet Chernabay pointed out that the Daily Mail had claimed that 7 out of 10 of migrants in Calais were actually coming to the UK. Is that true?
Well, this was the headline on the front page of the Mail, which referred to an estimate made by the Chief Constable of Kent Police, Alan Pusely. I took a look at what Mr. Pusely actually said, which was, having consulted with our French colleagues, they have confirmed that through their own research, 70% of migrants they process in the area of Calais leave the vicinity within a 4-month period. They cannot ascertain whether these migrants leave to go elsewhere in France or whether they enter the UK.
So 70% of migrants leave Calais within 4 months, but whether they actually get into the UK is a different question. Well, thank you, Wes. Loyal